Welcome to today's episode of the DSM-5 Breakdown. Today's topic is intermittent explosive disorder. What is it? Do I have it? That and many other questions will be answered on this episode. Have you ever been cut off in traffic? Your heart rate quickens, your hands go up in frustration, and on occasion, an expletive might come out. Defensive aggression is a normal human behavior. It's natural to be angry that you might be late to grandma's house because of the person who cut you off at the last minute. However, an irrational outburst may be a sign of a more severe problem known as intermittent explosive disorder. The DSM-5 has two criteria for intermittent explosive disorder. The first states several episodes of failure to resist aggressive impulses that result in a series of assaultive acts. The second criteria states the degree of aggressiveness expressed during the episodes is grossly out of proportion to any precipitating psychosocial stressors. Are you concerned that you or your child may have intermittent explosive disorder? 7% of the population, about 21 million, are known to have IED. Let's follow the story of Nick, a child with intermittent explosive disorder, to find out. Nick is an 11-year-old boy in 5th grade living in Astoria, New York. He attends a public school and is placed in a general education setting. He has made many friends through Boy Scouts, and he enjoys playing forward on the basketball team. Nick lives with his foster parents, Pete and Jenna, and their son, Andy. Pete and Jenna have tried to make Nick feel like a part of their family. Jenna is a stay-at-home mom who enjoys taking Andy and Nick to birthday parties and lacrosse practice. Jenna cooks dinner most nights to encourage a strong family relationship. Pete works in real estate and is able to make it home for dinner most nights. He participates in weekend activities such as Nick's basketball games and being the Boy Scout troop leader. Nick was brought to the home of Pete and Jenna after he was removed from the care of his mother. Fortunately, Nick was able to stay in his current school. It was reported by Nick's 4th grade teacher that he was missing many days in school, stating that he was not fed dinner and had bruises on his upper arms. ACS was contacted by school administration. He was brought into the care of Pete and Jenna shortly after being removed from his home. The adults in Nick's life, including his current 5th grade teacher, describe Nick as very social. He has many friends in their class, and he is almost never alone during recess or choice time. He always includes others when asked. It's a good thing that Nick loves sports because, according to Jenna, Nick cannot stand still for 1 second. In their most recent game of Monopoly, between his turn, Nick would run around the house. He only comes back to roll his dice and move the top hat. Lastly, Nick is a very hard worker. He hands in his homework and assignments on time and is often going the extra mile with his work. Because Nick is very even-tempered, friendly, and caring, his outbursts became extremely concerning to Pete and Jenna. The first outburst that occurred was 2 months into Nick's new living situation. Most nights before dinner, Andy and Nick watch Pokemon together. It's their favorite show. Andy told Nick that he had already seen this episode, so he decided to change the channel. Nick jumped on top of Andy and began hitting him in the head with the remote. Andy shouted, "I'm sorry," repeatedly. Nick proceeded to throw the remote at the television, which cracked the screen. The second outburst occurred 2 weeks after that first incident. Jenna cooks dinner most nights, and together they eat as a family. This particular night, Jenna made chicken parmesan, Nick's favorite dish. He thanked Jenna for making such a delicious meal. Nick devoured his chicken, but Jenna insisted that he ate his broccoli that she made on the side. She explained how it's important to eat vegetables to stay healthy. Nick screamed at Jenna, "I do not want to eat it! You are so stupid!" Then he threw his plate across the kitchen, which shattered into pieces. 3 months later, another anger outburst occurred during a Boy Scouts camping trip. After a demonstration, Pete instructed all the boys to begin setting up their tents. Nick was excited, and he felt like he was an expert on setting up his tent. While Nick began setting up his tent, a friend came over and asked him if he wanted any help. Nick got so upset. He began kicking the tent and cursing and screaming at his fellow Boy Scout. Pete had to intervene so the other boy would not get hurt. Within the span of these 6 months, Pete and Jenna were concerned with Nick's impulsive and aggressive behavior. They went to a doctor who explained that there are 2 types of IED criteria. A1 means that outbursts are high frequency but low intensity. Nick meets the A2 criteria. This means that Nick has less frequent outbursts but are extremely severe, with a minimum of 3 outbursts in 1 year. The doctor explained that intermittent explosive disorder involves an impulsive or anger-based aggressive outbursts that begin rapidly and have very little buildup. They are often provoked by minor actions of someone close, typically a family member or a friend. The aggressive episodes are generally impulsive or based in anger rather than premeditated. After being exposed to this new information, Pete and Jenna were concerned about the origin of intermittent explosive disorder. Childhood trauma is linked to IED. It is also common in people who have been victims of abuse, victims of assault, and human rights violations. Studies show that genetics also play a factor in the cause of intermittent explosive disorder. So, what does this have to do with Nick? Nick was removed from his mother's home due to abuse. Reports show bruises on Nick, and he admits to being hit by his mother. He missed many days of school, almost 40. He also disclosed that he went many nights without food. On breaks from school, there were many consecutive days he went without eating. Similar to Nick's past, there are risk factors to take into consideration when evaluating someone for IED. The DSM-5 explains that individuals with a high school education or less are more likely to be diagnosed than more educated adults. Studies have also found that intermittent explosive disorder is particularly prevalent among the military population. Engaging in combat requires some level of aggression or hostility to be effective. In clinical reports, DSM-4 found that IED appears to be more frequent in males than females by a 2-to-1 ratio. Oh, so maybe that's a factor for Nick too. Although the disorder can persist throughout the lifespan, symptoms are most likely to begin in individuals younger than 35 years old. The disorder is nearly twice as prevalent among individuals in the other race category, which means those who are not white, black, or Hispanic. Pete and Jenna were weary of putting Nick on medications right away. They started with Nick participating in cognitive behavioral therapy. This included teaching skills for relaxation training, cognitive restructuring, and coping skills. Both Pete and Jenna noticed that Nick's impulsive aggressions and anger had reduced. While Nick's impulsive anger had improved, Pete and Jenna believed that he needed further support with medication. Often, people with IED are given anti-anxiety medications, antidepressants, and mood stabilizers. Nick began medication and his impulsive and aggressive behaviors reduced dramatically. So, what's next? Tune in next time for an update on Nick. Could your child have intermittent explosive disorder? Tune in next week for an exclusive interview with specialist on IED, Dr. Bob. That's all for today, folks. I'm Christina Fundos. See you next time on the DSM-5 Breakdown.